Hi everyone, just getting set up here. I gotta shut the sound down on my iPad or I'll be double listening to myself, and that's not a good thing. Well, thank you for showing up to the Magical book review tonight. I'm gonna wait just a couple of seconds to see if a couple more people show up. Let me see if I can't share this out for my friends. Some of my friends that pop in. Alrighty, so thank you. Thanks for the hearts. I appreciate it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start. What I try to do is every week or every couple of days, I'm going to try to put out magical book reviews. Some of these books I've read many years ago, and some of them I'm still working on. I do reviews. I do get review copies from Wiser Red Wheel Books, and they send me one about every month or so to review. The last one I got is this H.P. Lovecraft book, where it compares into black magic. Very interesting book. I will review it fully after I finish reading it. I'm going to start out tonight. We're going to talk about magical books for beginners to start out, and then when I get done at the end, the final book I'll be doing is one on the Kabbalah. It's Study of the Kabbalah, written by Donald Michael Craig. I don't have the newest edition of that book in hardback or in hard form. I do have it on my Kindle. It's kind of hard to show those though. All right, first book we want to talk about is by the author Silver Ravenwolf, and it's Teen Witch. Now, I know a lot of folks out there will say that this is a... Let me see if I can get a better picture of it. Going the wrong direction here. A lot of folks will say that this is a fluffy bunny, which I hate that phrasing. New age book. What it is basically, it's a book written for teenagers, so it's written at a little lesser scale than some of the other books out there, just so it will help them get through the whole idea of maybe I want to be a witch. It's a tough life, folks. Don't get me wrong. It's a tough life living as a witch in a world of mundane, in a world of religious bigotry. But so if you want to take that on, you need to take that on seriously. I think the book does give a lot of good information. When my daughter was pretty young, about 13, 14, I gave her this book to read, and she passed it on to a girlfriend of hers, and my daughter is 24 now, and she's a wonderful pagan lady with my beautiful grandson. Silver Ravenwolf is a wonderful author. She has written lots and lots of books. A lot of people consider them the 101 or the fundamental books. Some people just totally hate her. I don't. Silver actually came on my radio show about 5 years ago, and that was the first radio show she had done in almost 11 years, talking about her work and talking about what she was planning on doing. And at that time, we developed a rapport. Now she's one of my mentors, teaching me powwow magic, which is a Dutch-German form of magic. It has nothing to do with the Indians. Wanted to get that out there because everybody always asks me if powwow means Native American, and it doesn't. There are some aspects of it that could be considered shamanic. All right, Teen Witch, it goes into several different subjects. I'm just going to cover a couple of them out of the concordance here. Starts out with a just beginning introduction for the parents of the kid that's wanting to read the book, which is very good. Then it's got an introduction for the teens themselves. Then it talks about the craft, what it is and what it isn't. Secrets that aren't secrets anymore, the basics of witchcraft. It goes through the creation myth, through different days and dates and ritual, and talks about magic with a K. The difference is magic with a C is like stage magic that you would see from David Blaine or Penn and Teller, those guys. Magic with a K is actual magic where you're actually causing a change in nature, a change in the universe by your intent. Basically, magic, we do it every day. We get up, we change what's going on around us by our intent in every day. But this one talks about prayer in magic. It talks about singing and using musical instruments. That's another thing we do with magic, is in art. Magic is in music. Basically, you're using your art form, your voice, your instrument, your paintbrush. You're using those to change a perception of the universe, a perception of what's in the universe, making it conform to your will. It talks about different kinds of things like sympathetic magic. Sympathetic magic is like, for example, the cavemen, when they were going out on a hunt or something like that, they would wear a mask of the horned god, which is not the devil. A lot of folks out there would say that. It's not the devil, it's the horned god of the hunt. They would wear a mask of that horned god, and then they would also make a clay effigy of the animal that they were going to hunt, and they would stab it with spears. And they thought by doing that, it would cause their hunt to go better. And that's basically the beginnings of sympathetic magic. I'm not going to go into all the different forms of magic that are out there now, but that's some of those. Then she goes into spells just for you, talking about timing of the spells. Love spells, she goes into that and how you should not use them to try to conform somebody's will. You should not use a love spell to change somebody's thoughts and mind and make them love you. You should put the love out there and leave and give them the bait. You know, like drop a little bait out there saying, "Hey, I'm interested." But no, as far as love spells to actually change somebody's opinion, we don't want to do that. She talks about healing, prosperity and abundance. She talks about psychic power and wisdom. She talks about protection, which is a big one when you're doing spells. You want to know how to protect yourself from the backlash that could come back. Then she goes into fun spells, like dealing with the crabby teacher, the exam spell, the beach baby sun spell, the bad bus driver 4 element spell. This all sound kind of interesting. And then it goes, where do we go from here? And it talks about discrimination in there. It talks about talking to your parents, talking to your friends about being pagan. Very interesting thing. If you can't, the thing is for a young pagan, and I always stress this with anybody who wants to learn from me, is that if you can't argue the case for yourself, to yourself, you'll never be able to explain it to your parents. So you need to know exactly why you're doing what you're doing, why you believe what you believe. Make a valid case for that, and then when somebody asks you a question, have an answer for them. Sometimes it may be, I don't want to talk to you because they're being so rude, but if somebody's being politely asking you what you believe, not accusing you of being a devil worshiper and telling you you're going to go to hell, then cool, that's the time when you tell them what you believe. Okay, thanks everyone for being here. Hearts are appreciated. Anytime you want to pop up a heart there, I'd be pretty happy with that. Networking, how to find other pagans. Another important part of the book, and that comes from the Teen Witch, Wicca for the New Generation by Silver Ravenwolf. It's still available. It's not out of print yet, I don't believe. I've got probably 15 copies of it, so if you need one, get a hold of me. All right, my next book I want to talk about is by another wonderful author. Somebody, if you've been around magic at all in the past, you've heard this name, Scott Cunningham. He's done some wonderful books on just about every type of magic. His Magic Today book was one of the first ones that I got a hold of as an official magical book. That was back in the, I guess it was late 70s or early 80s when I got that. This book here is Wicca, a guide for the solitary practitioner. Trying to find a sweet spot here so you can see this cover. And again, that's by Scott Cunningham. It's put out by Llewellyn Productions out of Minnesota. Pretty good book company for New Age books, New Age and witchcraft books. Some of the other books put out by Scott are Incense. Okay, hold on, that's wrong. Living Wicca, Incense, Oils, and Brews. Then I know he's got a Master Herbalism book that's really awesome. It's a staple in many people's lives out there who deal with herbs a lot, and it's a magical system. You will be dealing with herbs. Cunningham was an interesting man. He, like I said, he wrote tons and tons of these books. You can see I got it highlighted out pretty well. Went through it. One of the things that drew me to Scott Cunningham is another one of the authors that we're going to be talking about tonight, Donald Michael Craig. It's really interesting, some of the stuff that Scott did. He's been dead for several years now, but he put out some wonderful YouTube videos on herbalism. Well, they weren't put out for YouTube, but they're on YouTube now. Just look up Scott Cunningham and herbs on YouTube, and you'll find a lot of his work there, or Scott Cunningham and Magic, or Wicca. Matter of fact, the next book I'm going to pull up, and I thought I had it by a different author, but this is called Living Wicca. It's another good book from Scott Cunningham. Now this one here I haven't read so much of. I skim read it when I did. A lot of it's repetition, dealing with Wicca, and that's where a lot of the authors get reputations for being. Yes, Craig is definitely a very important author, but a lot of the authors get a reputation for being fluffy bunny or being too simplistic. But you know what? It's just like I tell everybody when they start saying these things, is that you don't give a baby a steak to eat. You don't give a baby a shot of whiskey. You give them milk, or you give them baby food. You give them things that's going to help them to grow. And everyone needs a start. And these books are awesome for starters. A lot of the stuff with Cunningham will stick with you like a base the rest of your life and the rest of your magical life. The further guide for study of the solitary practitioner is a little more advanced than the very first one. I think that they're both worth the read. I would say that on this is the way I tell my children, and especially my ones that are dealing with magic. I said, read everything you can read, all of it, and then realize that 85-90% of it's fluff, 85-90% of it's crap. Like I tell them, just like eating a hamburger, you eat it when it's good, and then what's left over comes out the other end eventually. And that's kind of what happens with a book. You actually devour that book, and then you excrete out what doesn't make sense, and that'll make a book work for you. That's basically the way with any book, though. Okay, now my very favorite book of all time about the high magic arts or ceremonial magic is this one. It's Modern Magic, and this is the 11 Lessons of the High Magical Arts by Donald Michael Craig. He actually in the latter years, right, a couple years before he passed away, which he passed away last year, he wrote an 11 or 12th lesson for this book. So if you've got the old book, you need to go and pick up the new one and just figure out that last lesson, and it's worth the price of admission, there, folks. I've got, like I said, when I started the shows, I've got this book on Kindle form with the 12th lesson. Very important. I think you'll like it. I'm not going to give you no spoiler alerts, but it deals with Kabbalah. It deals with a lot. One of the things I really enjoy about it is it deals with the tarot, which I love doing tarot readings. As a matter of fact, later on tonight I'm going to be doing a tarot show. Talks about, this part here talks about scanning and descanning the cards. Can you see that? And that's what you do. You basically take a tarot card and you go from one corner and just go do lines all the way down. It just like your it's like an old matrix printer, dot matrix printer. You go line by line and scan out that entire card and get the feeling from the entire card. Because, you know, it may say something on the out front, it might say love. And then as you go down through the card, you're going to see the intricacies of what was put into the painting. And sometimes the painter knew what he was putting in there. Sometimes it's just by quote unquote accident, if there is such a thing as accidents when it comes to magic. This is a little more advanced book. The other three books that I showed you were more for beginners, but this one here is this is that stake I was talking about earlier. This is that stake that you sink your teeth into. It's something that it's very substance. It's got a lot of substance. It's goes into all the angels. It goes into different rituals. Scott also went on to write sex magic book. Very interesting book if you can get a hold of it. I don't have a copy of that right now. And then he also wrote a book shortly before he passed that came out talking about tarot cards, which is awesome. I don't have it with me. It's buried in my box of books back in the back room. Actually, his wife sent it to me right shortly after he died. Sent me a copy of it to go through. Awesome book. But Donald, like I said, passed away just recently. A lot of people don't realize this, but Donald Michael Craig was actually a roommate of Scott Cunningham, whose books we went through a little bit earlier. Scott was actually talking to one of his publishers who said something about wanting to do a book on the high magic arts, want to do a book about Kabbalah, and he said, well, you need to talk to my roommate. And that's how Donald Craig got his book deal for the high magical arts. That would have been a wonderful apartment to be in. It really would have. Donald was a rock star at one point in his life. Wrote some fiction. Just quite an author. Quite a nice guy. I'd never met him eye to eye, but we were real good friends on Facebook, and we talked a lot, and he actually came on my radio show, I want to say about 4 years ago, and we talked about the new modern magic coming out. We talked about the 12th lesson a little bit, and if you're wondering what that radio show is, you can go to Blog Talk Radio, B-L-O-G, like a blog talk radio, and look up the Zaracon show, Z-A-R-A-C-O-N, and I believe it was on there. It may have been because I worked with Pagans Tonight at one point too, so I did a lot of interviews with Pagans Tonight. So I'll have to go back and check that, and I'll try to post some links to all this stuff on my Facebook page. If you're not a member, if you're not a friend on Facebook, you can look me up at Larry Zaracon, Z-A-R-A-C-O-N, Sodders, Sodders. And I will friend you, and you'll be able to see some of the posts I put on there. When I do, I've been spending a lot of time on Periscope. I like this format. Also, I got a Catch Me. You can go to Catch and pull up these episodes after the fact. It won't be gone in 24 hours like it normally usually is on Periscope. Again, a little later tonight I'm going to do tarot readings. Anybody's interested in that. Myself, I've been pagan for like over 40 years now. Started when I was 12 years old. Did a book report on Salem witch trials, and that's what brought me into it. One day I'll go into a big story about all that. Again, say thank you for everyone who showed up tonight and listening in. I appreciate it. Thank you for the hearts. I love that. I'm going to do another show soon. I'm not sure exactly where we're going to go with it, what books, but I'm planning on bringing out some more of the more advanced books. Some of those may be shown off of my iPad. It may be a little blurry because I'm using the iPad to show the books, because I got probably about 100 books of my magical books on Kindle, on the Kindle app. But overall, I think we'll have a good time. I got plenty of books to last for a good long time. Always looking for more, and like I said, I'm doing these reviews through Wiser Red Will. It's very nice. I'm going to talk to Llewellyn about doing reviews to them also. Also check out on Blog Talk Radio the Pagan Musings podcast channel. Pagan Musings podcast channel. And that's where you'll see wonderful programming from everything from the Pagan Musings podcast to we have the Green Egg Magazine radio show on there now, and also Taylor Elwood's doing a wonderful job with his show. I can't remember exactly what he calls it, and so is Gary Stout from Kansas, who's doing some wonderful shows for his, I think something, I can't remember what it's called either right offhand. And once in a while I'll throw in a Zaracon show here and there. So again, thank you for spending a little bit of time here. Please share this with your friends, tell them about it, and anyone who's interested in magical books, if you have suggestions, books that you want me to review, let me know. I've actually got a couple of new books from a brand new author. Well, she's done 5 books now, so I guess I can't call it brand new, but she's brand new to me, and she just lives just up the road. So it's kind of nice. And Elizabeth Gerdepi, and we'll be doing a review of her Crystal Skull book. Very good, Crystal Skull Magic. We had her interviewed on Green Egg Magazine radio show not too long ago. All right, guys. Again, I want to say thanks. I'm going to stop my podcast here, or my Periscope here, since my phone will behave. Thank you again. I appreciate the hearts, and I appreciate you being with me. Blessed travels, and check out my tarot show in about, well, probably 30 minutes.